to the city. We've never taken that position. We feel that if you want to sell your land to the city, that's your business. And the ELPTP is only another means to do that. It doesn't mean it's being solicited. It only means that if you want to sell your land, you can sell it to the city by subdividing your inhabitable dwellings on it. So it's not in any way promoting sale of land. It's just making it easier for the seller, and in one respect, the seller will get paid if it goes through a public trust. If it goes through a trust organization, the seller will get paid much quicker than if they deal directly with the city of New York.
But what does the city of New York do with this land? They don't put it up for sale so that we can have
the point is,
encourage more people to live around here.
This is true, but the point is that we've always maintained willing buyer, willing seller. If you want to sell to the city, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you you can't sell to the city. In fact, right now, the city's probably about the only market that's out there, the way the real estate market is. But we're not telling you that you have to sell to the city, or we're not encouraging the city to buy more land. We're just saying that if you want to sell your land to the city, this is a means to do it where you will get the revenue in a quicker fashion. Yes.
I have a question, and I was just clarify this. If the city buys land from a private individual, they pay for fair market price, and they pay taxes to the town on it. So it doesn't get lumped into the city land.
It's not.
They're still a taxpayer to the city.
The tax rate that the city pays on land they're purchasing within the watershed now is based on a fair market value. It's not like our fights over tax assessments and tax issues over the reservoir. The lands they're buying now their assessed value is based on the fair market value by an appraisal, an independent appraiser, not a city appraiser.
I believe that Mrs. Halstead's issue may be that every time they buy a piece of property, it's unable to be developed.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm not crazy about that either. But I also have always advocated that I'm going to sit up here and tell you what you can do with your land. I mean, that's been my position for over 20 years on the board. One of the
Maybe
reasons
that's
I got
why
involved.
we're in the predicament we are in now, where we've had lawsuit after lawsuit with the city.
But not over these lands that they're purchasing now. Not over the watershed permit lands. It's over the reservoir, and that is a much more complex thing. That's got to do with values of land under the water, values of the dams and the buildings and the roads, and very, very complicated. That's why we have to hire experts to do that. Fortunately, we don't have to do it now because we settled with the city. But
it's okay. In the document that was dated, the DEC permit, that this is modeled after whatever, if I'm not mistaken, because I did read that, trying to find that information about this, it said that it would be a city's appraiser to decide what the fair market was.
the city hires independent appraisers. They're hired by, they're paid by the city, yes. But they're independent appraisal firms. They're not under the jurisdiction of the city.
Bruce,
Yes.
I know a person right now who's going through this land acquisition program up in Margaretville, and they are having a heck of a time because their appraiser and the city's appraiser are way far apart on value.
The only thing I can tell you with that is then they have to settle that between them.
I'm just saying, it's not as cut and dry as it sounds, and it's not
You know
as
what?
friendly as it sounds.
I've been around a long time. I've never seen anything that's really cut and dried yet, except maybe beef jerky.
Yes.
I got one comment on the meeting last month that I observed, and that is the document was 100% pages. There was, I think, 10 people on a committee, and it seemed like my own observation, like everybody came up with 10 pages and nobody wanted to challenge that. And I also noticed that the board was not on board with the total package neither, probably due to other things, and didn't have time to do it. I thought that the meeting should not be held with the rep, and I thought that possibly, I don't know how you work it, but when you have a group like that from our area, what's her name, Mrs.
Chase? Helen Chase?
Yeah, when her and her, the other guy was there, probably would have been good if she met with the board and the board gave her some ideas to go back and say, look, there's a lot of crap in this thing that could be weeded out. And if that happened a little bit, we wouldn't have people arguing over every page of a 104-page document. I think that could have been weeded down by the board before we ever presented it. And in finalizing it, I probably thought the board should have just canceled that meeting and moved it out.
Well, we should have had a public hearing about it and discussion before we had it pass a
Because
resolution.
everybody's sitting to bite on little bites of every little thing, and that's not good.
Actually, one of the problems with it was that I was skimming through it as we were having a meeting because I had said that was the first, and that was the first day I'd seen it. But come to find out that was my own fault. They'd given me a disc a month ago and I hadn't put it in my computer. So it was my own fault I hadn't read it yet. But I have now read it, and I have a lot of concerns with it. So, and we'll discuss them. I'm sure everybody will discuss them, and it's not something we're gonna jump into right away, I'm sure.
But it's not something we're saying no about right away either.
I just have to, my name is Mary Ann Shepherd, I live in the town of West Shopin. I was here at the last meeting. I also agree with Ruth. I've been to many parts of New York State. I just was in the Adirondacks last week. There are many designated scenic byways. Small towns, the fear factor in this town, I don't really understand it. I mean, we're trying to bring business, we're trying to bring tourists, we shouldn't be afraid of tourists. I think tourists are a good thing, they help stimulate our economy. And I think we need to find a balance between, yes, we don't want to have to spend a lot of extra money, but it is not a horrible thing to say, you know, hey, we want to see the byway in this town. So I think people need to kind of see the middle of the road here and not have these polarized view of something because it's a state designation. It's been a good thing in lots of places. Drive around the state, go to the Adirondacks, go to Dutchess County, you see it all the time. And I just wanted to make that comment.
Well, the thing with that plan was, and what I remember, because I don't have it in front of me, is that it appeared to me that there was a power grab. We were going to turn it over to the scenic byway to decide what we do, what they would do through our town.
Well, I think the big argument was signage, which that gentleman pointed out. We already have a designation. It's
Right,
already
but there was much more. It was much more than that. That's all he
Well,
was
there's
admitting to.
signage, there's things like, you know, having parking areas if you're going to do that. I don't think that was a definite thing. That was something.
Mary Ann, a lot was omitted from that presentation. I will get with you and forward you those parts that were omitted.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I think we have to kind of see the good and the bad with everything. We can't just say, that's a terrible thing, we can't have it in the town of Belleville. We have to have a dialogue, not this attacking people because we...
When all stakeholder groups are consulted, as they did for the Shawmgum Byway, it becomes a pretty smooth process.
Okay. No, I agree with you, Charlie. I think if people need to know and they need to make an informed decision.
Yes.
On the scenic byway, one of the things that, since in the last several months, a lot of people are coming to the town board meeting, I believe the scenic byway has been basically going on for 3 years. And what people may not realize is this town board has passed a few resolutions along the way supporting the development of the scenic byway. And my understanding of this document that was presented was basically that the towns involved and their representatives have been doing a lot of work. That document would be going to the state to get the state to declare Route 28 a scenic byway. So there's been like 3 years worth of work that a lot of people that were at that meeting hadn't seen happen. And so I just want to point that out.
The one thing I also want to make very clear so everybody knows is everybody that worked on that did it as a volunteer. So there were, I would wager to say hundreds